Poetry changes lives. It really does, you know. You might not imagine that a single poem or a quote or even a song could do that. But I'm going to show you 5 short videos that went viral and between them gathered more than 8 million views. You might think that in itself is a life-changing event, but that's not what I mean. Poetry has power to change us, change the way we feel, change our understanding of ourselves and of the world. It can be a force for healing, a force for entertainment. You can test it just by reading or writing a poem and see how you feel before you start and how you feel at the end. I'm sure you'll be feeling a bit different. I'm going to introduce each of these short videos, and at the end I'll summarize it. I'd love to hear your comments too. I hope you enjoy this. Thank you. My first video is called When I Was the Forest, and it's basically a warning that when mankind disconnects with nature, terrible consequences quickly appear. But there is also hope because nature is forgiving and will welcome us back with open arms. It's a poem in the form of a sort of prayer written over 500 years ago by a German mystic, Meister Eckhart. It's a very beautiful, lovely poem. Hello, it's Poetry Changes Lives, and I just wanted to share with you this beautiful poem that is 700 years old this year, I reckon, and it was written by a German mystic about the way mankind disconnects from nature, that we in fact are all part of one joined up universe, and when we think otherwise, when we disconnect with nature, then bad things happen. And that is so relevant today with the terrible damage we're doing our planet. And this poem reminds us that nature is so forgiving. If we'll just give it a chance, it will come back and welcome us back with open arms. I hope you like this poem because it really affects me. Here we are. It's called When I Was the Forest. When I was the stream, when I was the forest, when I was still the field, when I was every hoof, foot, fin and wing, when I was the sky itself. No one ever asked me, did I have a purpose? No one ever wondered, was there anything I might need? For there was nothing I could not love. It was when I left all we once were that the agony began, the fear and questions came, and I wept, and tears I had never known before. So I returned to the river, I returned to the mountains, I asked for their hand in marriage again. I begged to wed every object and creature, and when they accepted, God was ever present in my arms. And he did not say, where have you been? For then I knew my soul, every soul, has always held him. I think that's a really profound and moving poem, and I hope you agree. Thanks for listening. Video 2 is about love and the fact that love is everywhere and is universal. And that great poem by Percy Bysshe Shelley, Love's Philosophy, is featured. It contains the lines, nothing in the world is single, all things by a law divine, in one spirit meet and mingle, which I think is a beautiful concept, and it is a theme of connection that runs within so many of my videos. See what you think of it. Hello, welcome to Poetry Changes Lives. And on this day, the great German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was born in 1844. Nietzsche is remembered as a rather gloomy but very, very powerful thinker. He's one of the great names of philosophy. He was a strong atheist and said gloomy things like God is dead. And he was very anti-religious. He also said, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process they do not become a monster themselves. And I think that's something well worth remembering. He did have a slightly lighter side. He said things like, one must have chaos in oneself in order to give birth to a dancing star, which I think is rather poetic. And he's known as the father of existentialism. And he said, in every now being begins, round every here rolls the sphere there. The center is everywhere, bent is the path of eternity. I tell you, that takes some thinking about. Perhaps it's simpler to think about what he said what he meant when he said, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. In other words, if you have a reason for living, you can put up with a lot of uncomfortable situations. Well, all that heavy thinking hurts your head after a bit, I think. Philosophy is, wow, you have to be in the right mood for. Today's poem is a bit of more relief from such heavyweight thinking. It's by Percy Bysshe Shelley, and it's called Love's Philosophy. Here we are. Fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single, all things by a law divine. In one spirit meet and mingle, why not I with thine? See the mountains kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it disdained its brother. And the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What is all this sweet work worth, if thou kiss not me? Well, that's a nice thought. Percy Bysshe Shelley is a pretty well-known poet, and he wrote some good stuff. Today I ask that I will keep it simple and not overcomplicate my world views unnecessarily. Thanks for listening. Video 3 is entitled Calm Down, and it's making the point that while so many of us love to be inspired to achieve great things, and poetry sometimes inspires us in that way, in fact, what most of us really need is a bit of peace of mind, peace and quiet. And that wonderful Middle Eastern poet Rumi, speaking to us so sensibly and quietly and very personally from 600 years ago, tells us just that, to calm down. And he says wonderful things like, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. I hope you like that one.
Hello, welcome to Poetry Changes Lives, my book of poetry, history, and a thought for the day. And today, I've been thinking about how so much poetry is full of emotion and inspiration and a lot of sort of fireworks in a way, which is really nice. But on the other hand, there is the alternative, and I've been looking at some of the medieval writers from hundreds of years ago, and so many of them seem to emphasize rather the opposite, just tranquility, peace, calm, reflection, and taking time out to stop getting in a worry and a hassle and just take things calmly. And I want to read a couple of short poems that I think illustrate what I'm saying. They come from people of very different religious backgrounds, but they're both basically saying the same thing. The first is from Catherine of Siena, the medieval Italian saint who wrote a lot of very beautiful stuff on that sort of theme. And she says here, this quite well-known piece, "The sun hears the fields talking about effort, and the sun smiles and whispers to me, why don't the fields just rest? For I am willing to do everything to help them grow. Rest, my dears, in prayer." And I think what Catherine of Siena is saying there is, you don't have to rush around the whole time being good. You've just got to get in the right frame of mind and be receptive and let your higher power do the rest sometimes. And the second is from that wonderful guy from the Middle East, Rumi, who died in 1273. And he wrote so many things that are just quietly common sense and meaningful. And here he says, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It won't lead you astray." He's just saying, calm down a bit. They're both saying that, calm down. Let things happen. There are forces for good in the world. Plug into them. That's my message for today. Thanks for listening.
Video 4 is entitled When You Are Old and Grey, and it is about love, about the fact that love, when it is offered to us, is a great gift that we should never disregard, because love is really and truly what makes us happy and what defines us. And this beautiful poem by William Butler Yeats says it all. When you are old and grey and sitting by the fire, take down this book and read. It's just beautifully put and a wonderful image.
Hello and welcome to Poetry Changes Lives, my book of history, poetry, and a thought for the day. And today I'm going to be talking about Jean-Paul Sartre, the French 20th century philosopher, writer, playwright, very deep-thinking man. I used to think he was a bit of a philosophical lightweight, but actually the more I read about and of his work, I
really admire him more. He's the man who popularized existentialism, although the idea of existentialism was conceived really in the 19th century by great men like Nietzsche and Kierkegaard, very heavyweight philosophers. But Sartre sort of brought it up to date, and he said that freedom is what we do with what is done to us. As he put it, man can will nothing unless he has first understood that he must count on no one but himself, that he is alone, abandoned on earth in the midst of his infinite responsibilities, without help, with no other aim than the one he sets himself, with no other destiny than the one he forges for himself on this earth. So he's saying, what we make of our life is very much up to us. He also said, life begins on the other side of despair, which is something I can relate to very much. Some of his quotes are great, actually. He also said, if you're lonely when you're alone, then you're in bad company. And some of his plays are, and his books are well worth looking into. I love his play Huis Clos in French, which means dead end. And it's about a bunch of people who find themselves trapped in a room endlessly arguing, and they realize that they're in hell. And the big line from that play is, hell is other people, which I sometimes remember when I'm on the underground in London in the rush hour. Hell is other people. And Sartre was a man of principles in his literary life. On this day in 1964, he refused the Nobel Prize for Literature. And you have to be pretty sure of your principles to refuse that prize, because it's worth many hundred thousands of pounds, and a lot of people are very happy to receive it. So Jean-Paul Sartre, I really admire the way he refused it, saying he always declined official honors because a writer should not allow himself to become an institution. Gosh, what a fine thing to say. Well, on today, this poem that I've chosen is about, the simpler state of life that many of us find ourselves in, especially as we get into old age, which I can relate to, and I very much love this poem. It's one of my all-time favorites by W.B. Yeats. It's very well known. It's called When You Are Old. And I wonder if Jean-Paul Sartre ever read this poem and thought to himself, well, yes, maybe this is how we all end up. Though he actually ended up working till the last, fueled by amphetamines, and true to his life dedication, to man's responsible for making his life what it is. He worked pretty much to the end. That's another pretty admirable thing. Anyway, here's this poem, When You Are Old. See what you think of this. When you are old and grey and full of sleep, and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true. But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face, and bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face among a crowd of stars. I really like that poem. I hope you do too. Today, I ask that I will be able to handle pessimism and negativity with understanding of myself and a bit of existentialism. Thanks for listening. Video 5 is entitled A Poem of Regret, and it is about a kind of love that is universal, that comes from our creation and reminds us that we are all part of a joined up universe that is not random but has meaning, and it behoves us to recognize our part in the universe and play our part and let ourselves be guided. And it features that wonderful poem by Charles Causley, I Am the Great Sun, that ends with these beautiful lines: I am your life, but if you will not name me, seal up your soul with tears and never blame me. We live in a joined up universe, and we need to recognize that. I hope you like that. Hello, welcome to Poetry Changes Lives. And today I just want to read a poem which is rather sad, about regrets. And for me it is a bit of a sad day as well, because TikTok has been such a big part of my life for the last few months. And I really wanted to salute all TikTokers, particularly my following, which is over 200,000. And I know many of you are in North America. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your beautiful comments and the way you have followed me and supported me. And I just think it's astonishing that so many people have made comments and not one single one of them has been unpleasant or abusive. I really truly say that, and I think it's astonishing and says a great deal about the whole TikTok community. I do thank you, and I hope that this is not goodbye. I shall continue posting on TikTok daily till the day I die, which may not be that far away, as for all I know. But meanwhile, anybody who can't continue on TikTok, I will be, and already am, posting on YouTube at Poetry Changes Lives 315, and also Instagram at Burn Poet, and Instagram again at Recovery Days Chris. Here's, I don't know if you can see that, but these are the addresses. And I do hope that this is au revoir for some of you, not goodbye. But for those who've supported me and continue to support me, I do salute you all and wish you well. This poem I'm going to read, I find it very moving. It's written by a great English poet who died in the year 2005, called Charles Causley. He's not terribly well known, but a lot of people regard him as the British Poet Laureate we never had, because he wrote so many beautiful poems. I particularly like this one that he wrote. It's inspired by writing that he found on a 16th century crucifix in Normandy in France. And he wrote this poem of sort of regret about the way we don't seize opportunities the way we follow our own egos and self-will, which is very relevant for a lot of us, myself particularly. Perhaps that's why it moves me so much. It's called I Am the Great Sun. Here it is. I am the great sun, but you do not see me. I am your husband, but you turn away. I am the captive, but you do not free me. I am the captain, but you will not obey. I am the truth, but you will not believe me. I am the city where you will not stay. I am your wife, your child, but you will leave me. I am that God to whom you will not pray. I am your counsel, but you will not hear me. I am your lover, whom you will betray. I am the victor, but you do not cheer me. I am the holy dove, whom you will slay. I am your life, but if you will not name me, seal up your soul with tears and never blame me. Gosh, think about that. I've read it many times and I find it very moving and really makes me think. Well, I wish you all well and I thank you. And please remember, I'm still doing these daily posts on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So, see you soon. Thank you. Well, these 5 videos, in spite of the fact they have a lot of differences and the poems are really very different, they do have a common theme, more than one common theme, the main one being love. And love is explored in various forms. Love in nature, in the universe, amongst our loved ones, for ourselves, and the philosophy of love. And I think many people have responded to those themes because they are universal, and poetry should make us think, and not every poem does that, but I think these ones that I've featured really have made people think and respond and become involved. As Benjamin Franklin famously said, "Tell me and I listen, involve me but I learn." And I think these poems do involve us. They make us think, they give us insights, and in doing so they change us for the better. Poetry is powerful, but it is a benign power, and I for one think it is a wonderful power that we are very fortunate to have, and I hope you agree. And I would love to hear your comments on any of this that I've said. Please do send me messages, and if you would like to subscribe to YouTube channel Poetry Changes Lives 315, I'm also on TikTok at Burn Poet and Instagram at Burn Poet as well. My website is poetrychangeslives.com. Thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you all again.